The first thing Eliana Cruz destroyed inside the home of New York's most feared crime lord was not a priceless vase, an expensive medical machine, or one of the armed men guarding his bedroom. It was his silence. For 8 months, silence had ruled the Moretti estate. It followed servants through the marble corridors. It hovered over the untouched piano in the west drawing room. It filled the private rehabilitation wing where expensive equipment gathered dust beneath white sheets. Most of all, it surrounded Luca Moretti. Men once lowered their voices when Luca entered a room. Judges remembered appointments they had forgotten. Businessmen signed contracts without reading the final page. Rivals who laughed at his warnings were rarely seen laughing twice. Then, on a rainy October night, a truck struck his armored vehicle as it crossed the Brooklyn Bridge. The collision pushed the car through a construction barrier. The explosion that followed killed his driver, shattered 3 vertebrae in Luca's lower spine, and left him unable to move his legs. He survived. Some people considered that a miracle. Luca considered it an insult. 8 months later, he sat alone in a mansion filled with armed guards, surrounded by an empire he could still command but no longer walk through. He had dismissed 7 nurses. 1 cried. 1 quit during lunch. Another lasted 4 hours before Luca ordered security to escort him from the estate. Then Eliana arrived 43 minutes late, carrying a broken umbrella, wearing mismatched shoes, and arguing with a delivery driver who claimed she had nearly reversed into his van. She had no idea that before the night was over, she would uncover a secret hidden beneath Luca Moretti's paralysis. And Luca had no idea that the disorganized young woman dripping rainwater across his marble floor would become the one person standing between him and a second attempt on his life. Before we continue, subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications, because this is not simply a story about a mafia boss and his caregiver. It is a story about what happens when the one person everyone believes is helpless begins to discover that his greatest enemy has been sitting beside him all along. Eliana's old hatchback coughed twice and stopped beneath the covered entrance of the Moretti estate. She stared through the cracked windshield at the mansion before her. The building seemed less like a home and more like a courthouse designed by someone who hated defendants. Gray stone walls rose behind iron fencing. Security cameras tracked her car from several angles. 2 men in black suits stood beneath the entrance lights, neither of them bothered by the heavy rain. Eliana turned the key. The engine clicked. She tried again. Nothing. Of course, she whispered. Why would today be different? Her phone rang inside her handbag. She dug beneath a packet of crackers, 2 pens without caps, a roll of medical tape, 3 unpaid bills, and a plastic container holding something that might once have been pasta. She found the phone seconds before the call ended. Hello. Eliana, where are you? Her younger brother's voice came through the speaker. Mateo was 16, intelligent, stubborn, and currently staying with their aunt because Eliana's apartment building had lost electricity for the 3rd time that month. At a job interview. Are you sure this one is real? Define real. A place that pays you. That is the plan. And doesn't involve you getting chased by a patient's dog. That happened one time. The dog took your shoe. I got it back. After it buried it. Eliana glanced at the mansion again. Listen, I need to go. This employer seems like the sort of person who considers lateness a capital offense. Who is he? She hesitated. The employment agency had given her limited information. Wealthy private client. Spinal cord injury. Live-in caregiver required. Excellent salary. Difficult temperament. They had not mentioned the armed guards. Eliana? Mateo asked. Just a businessman. One of the guards started walking toward her car. A businessman with security, she added. What kind of security? The kind with matching jackets. Eliana. I'll call you later. She ended the call before he could protest. The guard stopped beside her window and knocked. Eliana pressed the button to lower it. The window moved down 2 inches and jammed. She smiled through the gap. Good afternoon. You're blocking the entrance. My car has temporarily chosen independence. The man stared at her. He was tall, perhaps 40, with dark hair and a face that appeared permanently disappointed. Name? Eliana Cruz. I'm here for the caregiver position. He examined her faded green scrub top, rain-soaked cardigan, and mismatched shoes. One was black. The other was navy. You're late. Yes. No excuse. I could create one, but we would both know I was lying. His expression did not change. What happened? My alarm failed. Your alarm failed? I threw it against a wall 3 days ago. For the first time, something moved in his face. Not amusement. Possibly confusion. He touched the communication device at his collar. The caregiver applicant has arrived. A voice responded in his earpiece. The guard looked at Eliana again. You were expected 40 minutes ago. 43. You're correcting me? I'm demonstrating attention to detail. It's important in healthcare. His eyes narrowed. What's in the bag? Mostly things I have been looking for since Tuesday. Step out of the vehicle. Eliana climbed from the car, immediately stepped into a puddle, and muttered something in Spanish. The guard opened her handbag. He removed the medical tape, a spoon, a paperback novel, a small flashlight, a nearly empty perfume bottle, a blood pressure cuff, and one orange. Why do you have a spoon? I was eating yogurt. There's no yogurt. I finished it. Why didn't you throw away the spoon? I forgot. The man returned everything except the flashlight. This stays here. It was free. It stays. Another guard approached the car. We'll move the vehicle. Careful with it, Eliana said. The passenger door opens when it feels emotionally secure. Neither man responded. Eliana followed the first guard inside. The entrance hall was enormous. A black chandelier hung above polished stone. Portraits lined the walls, showing generations of serious men who appeared to disapprove of joy. The house was warm, but it did not feel welcoming. Several staff members passed quietly, avoiding eye contact. No music played. No television murmured from a nearby room. Even the rain seemed to strike the windows softly, as though the weather had been warned. The guard led Eliana through 2 corridors and stopped before a set of dark wooden doors. Mr. Moretti is inside. Any advice? Leave before he tells you to. That has been the general direction of my career. The guard gripped the handle. And don't touch the chair. What chair? He opened the door. Eliana stepped inside. The room was a library, although calling it a library seemed inadequate. Shelves reached the ceiling. A fireplace burned beneath a carved stone mantel. Heavy curtains framed windows overlooking the wet gardens. At the far end of the room, a man sat behind a desk. Luca Moretti did not look ill. That was Eliana's first thought. He looked dangerous. His dark hair was neatly combed, though a few strands had fallen toward his forehead. A charcoal shirt stretched across broad shoulders. His sleeves were rolled to his elbows, revealing strong forearms and an expensive watch. His wheelchair was positioned behind the desk in a way that concealed most of it. Only the black wheels were visible. Luca did not look at Eliana immediately. He continued reading the document in his hand. You are late, he said. His voice was quiet. Eliana had encountered angry patients, grieving families, arrogant surgeons, and one elderly woman who threw a television remote at her because a game show contestant had answered incorrectly. Luca's calm voice unsettled her more than shouting would have. So I've heard. He placed the document on the desk. His eyes lifted. They were dark brown, almost black, and entirely unreadable. You were told to arrive at 2. Yes. It is 2:44. The clock in the hall says 2:43. The clock in the hall is slow. Then someone should fix it. Luca studied her for several seconds. You do understand that this is an interview? Yes. You have given me no explanation for your lateness. My alarm clock and I had a disagreement. And the shoes? Eliana glanced down. Separate disagreement. You came to request employment wearing different shoes. They are both comfortable. They are different colors. They have not complained. Luca leaned back slightly. The movement revealed more of the wheelchair. It was sleek, custom-built, and far more advanced than anything Eliana had used during her training. It had powered leg supports, a specialized pressure relief cushion, and controls mounted beneath his right hand. His legs rested motionless. A dark blanket covered them from his knees down. On the desk beside him sat a glass of water and 3 medication bottles, all unopened. "You worked at St. Catherine's Rehabilitation Center," Luca said. "For 9 months. You were dismissed." "I was. Why?" "I argued with the head administrator." "About?" "A patient." "What kind of disagreement?" "They wanted to discharge a man whose insurance had expired even though his home had no wheelchair ramp, no accessible bathroom, and no family available to assist him." "And you objected?" "I may have used the phrase, heartless collection of expensive neckties." "You insulted your employer." "I described the situation." Luca's gaze remained on her. "The report says you removed the wheel from the administrator's office chair." Eliana hesitated. "That part has been exaggerated." "Did you remove it?" "One wheel." "Why?" "I wanted him to understand the importance of mobility support." The corner of Luca's mouth moved slightly. It was not a smile, but it was the first sign that he might possess the necessary muscles. "You are careless," he said. "I can be disrespectful. Sometimes unreliable. I was late, not absent. You have no experience working with a patient of my profile." "I have experience with spinal cord injuries." "Not with mine." Eliana looked at him carefully. His expression had sharpened. This was the trap, she realized. He wanted her to ask about the accident. He wanted to see whether her face softened with pity or fear. He wanted to know whether she viewed him as a medical chart attached to an infamous name. She walked toward the desk. The guard near the door shifted his hand toward his jacket. Eliana stopped at a safe distance. "You're right," she said. "I've never worked for you." Luca waited. "But I know what I see." "And what do you see?" "Pressure in your shoulders from overusing your arms. Swelling in your right hand. Poor circulation in your feet. At least one medication you refuse to take because the seal is still intact. A blanket arranged to stop visitors from seeing your legs. And a man who positioned his desk to hide his chair during meetings." The room changed. The guard near the door looked at Luca. Luca's face became still. "You were not invited to diagnose me." "I'm not diagnosing you. I'm observing." "Then observe your way back outside." Eliana should have apologized. She should have thanked him for the opportunity, collected her dead car, and returned to the apartment where an eviction warning had been taped beside her door. Instead, she looked at the medication bottles again. "Which one makes you dizzy?" Luca's fingers tightened around the armrest. "Excuse me? You haven't opened any of them. One probably causes dizziness or fatigue, so you stopped everything rather than tell your doctor. You know nothing about my treatment. You have muscle relaxants, nerve pain medication, and medication for blood pressure episodes. Stopping all 3 at once would be stupid." The guard took a step forward. "Ms. Cruz." Luca raised one hand. The guard stopped. "Leave us," Luca said. "Boss." "Outside, Dante." The guard named Dante gave Eliana a warning look before closing the doors behind him. Luca rolled his chair from behind the desk. The movement was smooth and nearly silent. He stopped several feet from her. Without the desk between them, the wheelchair was fully visible. So were his legs. Even beneath the blanket, Eliana could see the reduction in muscle size. His left foot rested at an awkward angle against the support. One shoe was not properly secured. Luca watched her notice. His jaw tightened. "You require money," he said. "Most people do. Your credit report shows unpaid medical debt." Eliana stiffened. "You checked my credit?" "I check everyone who enters this house." "That seems excessive." "You also owe rent." "That is not your concern." "It becomes my concern if desperation makes you dishonest." The word struck harder than she expected. Eliana took a slow breath. "My mother was sick for 3 years. Insurance did not cover everything. She died in February. I became responsible for my brother, lost my hospital position, and have been working temporary jobs since then." Luca's expression did not change, but his voice became quieter. "You are 25. 26 next month. and responsible for a 16-year-old. Yes. Your father? Gone. Dead. Gone is the version I prefer. Luca studied her face. Why should I hire someone whose own life appears unstable? Because stable people will treat this place like a museum. And you won't. No. I'll treat it like a house. That is not an answer. It is. You don't need another nurse who whispers outside your door, asks permission to breathe, and pretends not to notice when you are in pain. You need someone who will tell you when you are being unreasonable. I am always reasonable. You investigated my unpaid bills before meeting me. That was reasonable. You fired 7 caregivers. They were incompetent. All 7. Yes. Statistically, you may be the problem. Silence filled the room. Then Luca did something unexpected. He picked up the glass of water from his desk and held it toward her. Take it. Eliana frowned. Why? Because I asked. That is not a medical explanation. Take the glass. She accepted it. The moment her fingers wrapped around the crystal, Luca released it too early. The glass slipped. Eliana lunged. She caught it against her stomach, splashing water across her cardigan but preventing it from hitting the floor. Luca looked at the wet fabric. A reflex test? She asked. A coordination test. You could have asked me to touch my nose. That would have been less informative. Eliana placed the glass on the desk. You dropped it intentionally. Yes. That was expensive. The glass is replaceable. So is the water? Luca's eyes narrowed. She opened her handbag, removed the orange, and placed it in his hand. What is this? My test. For what? Throw it. He stared at her. Throw the orange. Luca tossed it toward her without warning. Eliana caught it with both hands. Good, she said. What exactly did that prove? You can follow instructions. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then Luca laughed. It was brief and low, almost surprised out of him. The sound vanished quickly, but it altered his entire face. He looked younger. Less like a portrait hanging in the corridor. More like a man who had once known how to enjoy something. Eliana slipped the orange back into her bag. When do I start? I have not hired you. He laughed. That feels legally binding. Luca turned his chair toward the windows. You begin tomorrow at 7. In the morning? He looked over his shoulder. No, Ms. Cruz. 7 in the year 2042. I'll need an advance. Absolutely not. Half an advance? No. A tank of gas? Your car requires more than gasoline. You noticed. It is currently leaking something onto my driveway. Eliana winced. Is it dark? Yes. That is probably oil. I know what oil looks like. Then why did you ask? I did not ask. She smiled. Tomorrow at 7. At 7 means at 7. I will arrive at 6:59. You will arrive at 6:30. That was not the agreement. You are already arguing with your employer. You hired me 10 seconds ago. Luca turned back toward the rain. Dante will arrange transportation. The interview was over. Eliana walked toward the doors. Ms. Cruz. She turned. Luca's expression had closed again. If you speak about anything you see in this house, you will regret it. The warmth drained from the room. Eliana understood then that beneath the medical needs, beneath the wheelchair and the medication bottles, Luca Moretti remained exactly what people whispered he was. A dangerous man. She met his gaze. I don't discuss my patients. I am not simply a patient. While I'm checking your blood pressure, you are. She left before he could respond. Eliana arrived the next morning at 6:28. Dante was waiting in the entrance hall. You are early, he said. Please record the moment. He handed her a security badge. You wear this at all times. You do not enter the basement. You do not enter the East office. You do not photograph anything. You do not discuss staff names, vehicle registrations, visitors, schedules, or security procedures. Can I discuss the weather? No. That feels unnecessarily strict. You will stay in the caregiver suite beside Mr. Moretti's room. Meals are provided. Your responsibilities are medical assistance, mobility support, personal care when requested, medication management, and overnight monitoring. When requested? Dante's mouth tightened. He refuses most assistance. Then why hire me? His physician demanded it. Who demanded the other 7? The same physician. And where are they now? Alive. That pause was disturbing. Dante led her through the house. During daylight, the estate appeared less threatening but no less empty. The gardens were immaculate. The rooms were filled with fine furniture. Paintings and sculptures occupied every corner. Yet nothing seemed personal. No family photographs. No half-read books left open on tables. No coats thrown over chairs. The only sign that anyone truly lived there was an abandoned chessboard in the sunroom, its pieces frozen halfway through a game. Dante noticed her looking. Mr. Moretti's father started that game the night before he died. How long ago? 11 years. Why hasn't anyone moved it? No one touches the board. Eliana stepped away from it. Dante showed her the rehabilitation room. The equipment looked recently purchased and barely used. Parallel bars. Resistance bands. Electrical stimulation devices. A standing frame. A padded treatment table. Eliana ran her finger across the frame. How often does he do therapy? He doesn't. How often is he supposed to? 5 days a week. And no one makes him? Dante stared at her. You have met him. At 7, Eliana entered Luca's bedroom carrying a blood pressure monitor, medication organizer, clipboard, and a cup of coffee she had made for herself. Luca was already dressed. He sat by the window in dark trousers and a white shirt, reading messages on a tablet. The blanket was gone. Eliana noticed that immediately. Perhaps her comments during the interview had annoyed him enough to stop using it. Or perhaps he simply wanted to prove she had no influence over him. Good morning, she said. You are 2 minutes late. I was downstairs. You were not here. I will apologize to your arteries. She placed the equipment on the table beside him. Luca's right foot had slipped from the support again. She crouched and adjusted the strap. His body went rigid. Ask before touching me. Your foot was twisted. I can see that. Can you fix it? A dangerous pause followed. No, he said. Then I'm fixing it. She secured the strap without looking at his face. His leg was cold beneath the fabric of his trousers. The muscle loss was more pronounced than she had expected. 8 months of limited therapy had taken a severe toll. She checked the skin near his ankle. No immediate breakdown, but the circulation was poor. When was your last assisted range of motion session? I do not remember. That means too long ago. I have meetings. You also have hips. We should try to keep them functional. She wrapped the cuff around his upper arm. Luca watched her. You speak constantly. I'm nervous. You do not appear nervous. I hide it behind poor judgment. The machine inflated. His blood pressure was high. Eliana waited several minutes and checked again. Still high. Did you take your medication? No. Why? It causes fatigue. So you stopped taking everything. I require mental clarity. You require blood flow that doesn't explode inside your skull. I have survived worse. That is not a medical strategy. Luca reached for the tablet. Eliana took it first. His gaze sharpened. Give that back. Take the medication. Ms. Cruz. Mr. Moretti. You are testing the limits of your employment. You hired me because I test limits. I hired you because you were inexpensive. You pay triple the agency rate. Compared with the disruption you cause, you are inexpensive. Eliana opened the medication bottle. 1 tablet. No. 1. I have a meeting in 20 minutes. Half a tablet, and I reassess in an hour. Luca stared at her. She stared back. It was ridiculous. She knew it was ridiculous. She was a newly hired caregiver holding a criminal leader's tablet hostage while bargaining over his medicine. Finally, Luca extended his hand. Half. She gave him the medication and returned the tablet. "You are unbearable," he said. "My brother agrees." For the next week, they established an uneasy routine. Eliana learned that Luca woke before dawn, slept fewer than 4 hours a night, and conducted most of his business from a private office inaccessible to the general staff. She learned that he hated sweet food, preferred black coffee, and became especially unpleasant when experiencing nerve pain. She learned that he could transfer from his wheelchair to his bed using his upper body strength, but the movements exhausted him and sometimes caused dangerous drops in blood pressure. She also learned that his paralysis was not as complete as the medical summary suggested. On her 4th night, while helping him reposition in bed, she noticed a movement in his left thigh. It was small, a brief contraction beneath the skin. "Do that again," she said. Luca looked at her. "Do what?" "Move your leg." "I did not move it." "Yes, you did." "It was a spasm." "No. Spasms are uncontrolled. That happened when you tried to reach for the rail." "I know my body." "Then try again." He turned his face away. "Leave it." Eliana placed 2 fingers against the muscle above his knee. "Think about lifting your knee." "Nothing will happen." "Think about it." His jaw tightened. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then the muscle contracted. Slightly. Deliberately. Eliana looked at him. Luca looked down at his leg. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was charged. "Again," she whispered. He tried. A smaller movement followed. His breath changed. Not excitement. Fear. He pushed her hand away. "Enough. Luca. Enough." It was the first time she had used his name without thinking. His eyes lifted sharply. Eliana lowered her voice. "That wasn't a random spasm. My neurologist said the damage was permanent." Neurologists can be wrong about recovery timelines. They can't predict everything. "I spent 5 months in hospitals. And then you stopped therapy. Because it did nothing. You had movement. A twitch. A voluntary contraction. It means nothing. It may mean something." Luca grabbed the bed rail and pulled himself higher against the pillows. His hand shook. Eliana realized he was not dismissing the possibility because he did not care. He was terrified of hope. Hope would require him to try again. It would require pain, failure, humiliation, and the possibility of losing his recovery twice. "The rehabilitation room starts tomorrow," she said. "No. 10 minutes. No. 5. I said no. Then I'll bring the exercises here." "You will do no such thing." Eliana folded her arms. "Fire me." Luca glared at her. "I am considering it." "You consider it 6 times a day." 7. Then make it 8 after therapy. The next morning, she brought resistance bands into his bedroom. Luca ordered her out. She sat in the corner and ate cereal. He ignored her for 20 minutes. She ignored him for 21. Finally, he threw the folder he was reading onto the table. "You are behaving like a child. You're the one refusing to stretch." "I am working." "You have been reading the same page for 12 minutes. His eyes narrowed. "You watch me too closely. It is literally my job." 5 minutes, he said. She put down the cereal. 10. "You said 5. I was negotiating." Luca muttered something in Italian. She suspected it was not flattering. The first session was simple. Assisted movement. Breathing exercises. Weight shifting to reduce pressure. Gentle resistance for his shoulders and arms. Eliana avoided mentioning the possible movement in his thigh. She did not celebrate. She did not offer false promises. She treated the session like ordinary work. That, more than anything, kept Luca from stopping. On the 3rd day, the muscle contracted twice. On the 5th he moved 1 toe. Barely. Eliana saw it. Luca saw her see it. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Then Eliana whispered, "Again." He tried until sweat dampened the collar of his shirt. Nothing happened. He slammed his fist against the wheelchair armrest. "This is pointless. You moved it. Once. Once is more than yesterday. And if it never happens again? Then we continue protecting the function you have." I did not ask for a motivational speech. That was not motivational. My motivational speeches involve background music. He turned the chair away, but not before she noticed that his eyes had become bright. He was not crying. Luca Moretti did not cry. He simply remained facing the windows until his breathing steadied. Later that afternoon, Eliana passed the East office and heard raised voices. The door was partly open. Dante stood inside with two other men. Luca sat behind the desk. A tall man with silver hair paced before him. "Your hesitation is costing us," the silver-haired man said. "My decision is final," Luca replied. "The Belandi family has moved into Queens. They intercepted another shipment last night. Then the route was compromised. Or they believe you no longer have the strength to respond." Luca's expression hardened. "Choose your next words carefully, Vittorio." Vittorio stopped pacing. "I am your uncle. I changed your diapers. And now you manage 3 construction companies because I allow it." The other men became silent. Vittorio's face darkened. "The families need to see you. They see me. They need to see you outside this house. At the table. In control." "I am in control." "Then attend the council dinner on Friday." "No. The last time you appeared publicly was before the accident." "The last time I appeared publicly, someone knew my route." Eliana paused outside the door. The atmosphere inside shifted. Vittorio spoke more carefully. "You still believe the crash was arranged. The truck driver disappeared." He was frightened. "The traffic cameras failed for 11 minutes. A technical fault. My escort vehicle received a false rerouting order using an internal security code." No one answered. Luca's voice became colder. "Someone inside my organization tried to kill me." Vittorio looked toward the doorway. His eyes met Eliana's. She immediately continued walking. "Who was that?" he asked. "My caregiver," Luca said. "She listens at doors? She gets lost." Eliana almost smiled. Almost. That evening, Luca was quieter than usual. Eliana helped him transfer from his chair to the bed. His arms were tense, his movements sharper. "You're going to the dinner," she said. "No. You should. You heard a private conversation." "I was passing." Slowly. "The floor was slippery. It is carpeted." "I was being cautious." Luca stared at her. She adjusted the pillow behind his back. "Your uncle is right about one thing. Do not say that again. If you hide forever, people will decide what your absence means. I am not hiding. You conduct meetings in rooms with your chair behind desks." His jaw hardened. "That arrangement is practical. You cover your legs whenever unfamiliar people visit. I am cold. You keep the house warm enough to grow bananas." Luca looked away. Eliana lowered her voice. "Go to the dinner. You think exposure will strengthen my position? I think allowing other people to define you will weaken it. This is not a hospital meeting. These are dangerous men. You are also a dangerous man. You say that as if you are reminding me. Sometimes I forget. You should not." She checked the skin on his left heel. The area looked slightly red. "You need a different foot position. Do not change the subject." "I'm not. I'm multitasking." Luca watched her adjust the cushion. "If I attend, you will remain here." "No. That was not a question. You've been having more blood pressure fluctuations. Crowded room, stress, alcohol, delayed medication. That is a bad combination. Dante can carry the emergency medication. Does Dante know the difference between autonomic dysreflexia and you being angry? No one knows the difference. I do. That is precisely the problem." Eliana looked up. For a moment, something unspoken passed across his face. Then it disappeared. "You will stay here," Luca repeated. On Friday evening, Eliana accompanied him to the council dinner. She wore a dark blue dress borrowed from one of the housekeepers, flat shoes, and a medical bracelet containing Luca's emergency information. Luca had argued for an hour. He lost when his blood pressure spiked during the argument, proving her point more effectively than she could. The dinner took place at a private club in Manhattan. The building had no sign, Only a brass door and 2 guards in formal coats. Inside, crystal lights reflected from dark wooden walls. Men in tailored suits spoke quietly around tables covered with white linen. Conversation slowed as Luca entered. Dante pushed the wheelchair despite Luca's dislike of being assisted in public. 2 guards walked behind them. Eliana followed with the medical case. She felt dozens of eyes move from Luca to the wheelchair, then to her. Some contained curiosity. Some pity. Several contained satisfaction. Luca wore a perfectly fitted black suit. His hair was combed back. His expression showed nothing. The chair did not diminish him. It made the room's reaction reveal everyone else. A man approached. He was broad, with gray at his temples and a gold ring on his smallest finger. "Luca," he said. "It has been too long." "Not long enough, Santoro." Santoro smiled. "I heard the doctors were hopeful." "You heard incorrectly." His eyes moved toward Eliana. "And this is my medical attendant." Eliana extended her hand. "Eliana Cruz." Santoro looked at her hand but did not take it. "Charming." "She has many qualities," Luca said. "Charm is not among them." Eliana withdrew her hand. "Neither are manners, apparently." Santoro's smile vanished. Luca continued forward before the exchange could deepen. They reached a long table. Vittorio stood near the head. "Luca," he said, smiling broadly enough to appear false. "You came. You insisted. I wanted everyone to see that you remain with us. Where else would I be?" Vittorio stepped behind the chair as though preparing to move it. Luca's hand tightened around the control. "I have it." "Of course." Vittorio moved away. Eliana noticed his eyes lower toward Luca's legs. Not with sympathy. With calculation. Dinner began. For the first hour, business dominated the discussion. Eliana sat several feet behind Luca, close enough to intervene but far enough to avoid appearing involved. She watched everything. Luca's right shoulder tensed when he experienced pain. His left hand became still before a blood pressure rise. When his legs began to spasm, a muscle jumped beneath his jaw before the movement became visible. Halfway through the second course, she saw the warning. His left hand froze around the edge of the table. A sheen of sweat formed at his temple. His face became pale. Eliana stood. Luca looked at her once and gave a tiny shake of his head. "Not now." She ignored him. She moved beside his chair and crouched. "How bad?" "I'm fine." That was not my question. Conversation at the table stopped. Vittorio frowned. "Is something wrong?" "No," Luca said. "Yes," Eliana said simultaneously. Luca glared at her. She placed 2 fingers against his wrist. His pulse was rapid. "Your catheter line may be obstructed." A few men looked away, uncomfortable with the medical detail. Luca's expression became murderous. "Not here. If the line is blocked, your blood pressure could become dangerous." "Handle it privately," Vittorio said. "I intend to." Eliana released the brake on Luca's chair. His hand closed over hers. "I said I am fine." His voice remained soft. Only she could hear the strain beneath it. "Your body disagrees." He held her gaze. Then he removed his hand. Dante followed as Eliana moved Luca toward a private corridor. They entered an accessible restroom. Outside, Luca ordered Dante. Dante closed the door. The moment they were alone, Luca exhaled sharply. His legs jerked against the footrest. Eliana locked the chair and checked the catheter tubing. It was twisted beneath the edge of his jacket. She corrected the line. "Deep breaths. Do not speak to me like a child." Then stop behaving like a man trying to have a medical crisis politely. Another spasm tightened his leg. His hand gripped the armrest. Eliana removed the emergency medication. "Under your tongue." "No. Luca. It will lower my blood pressure too quickly. You are sweating, your pulse is racing, and your skin is flushed above the injury. Take it." He took the medication. Eliana loosened his collar and elevated the chair's back. His breathing gradually slowed. "You should return home," she said. "No. You stabilized, but the trigger could return." If I leave now, they will smell weakness. If you collapse at the table, they will smell worse. Luca's eyes lifted to hers. What do you suggest? 5 minutes. Then we go back. You finish the meeting. We leave before dessert. You intend to set my schedule now? Yes. I should dismiss you. You can schedule that for tomorrow. Luca looked toward the closed door. Did you see Vittorio? Yes. What did you notice? Eliana hesitated. He watches your legs. So does everyone. Not the same way. Luca's expression sharpened. What way? Like he's waiting for evidence. Of weakness. No. Of movement. The silence became heavy. Luca looked down at his legs. Only Eliana, his physician, and the rehabilitation specialist knew about the voluntary contractions. She had not told Dante. She had not entered them into the household's digital medical log because Luca had ordered her not to. Yet Vittorio's attention had focused repeatedly on Luca's left foot. The foot that had moved twice that morning. Perhaps you imagined it, Luca said. Perhaps. You do not sound convinced. I'm not. Luca adjusted his jacket. We go back. When they returned to the dining room, every head turned. Luca guided his own chair to the table. He resumed his position without explanation. No emergency, I trust? Santoro asked. Luca lifted his glass of water. A minor equipment issue. Vittorio looked at Eliana. Your caregiver seems very devoted. She is very intrusive. The men laughed. Eliana did not. She remained behind Luca, watching Vittorio. Near midnight, the meeting ended. Rain had begun again. Dante went ahead to bring the vehicle closer to the entrance. 2 guards accompanied him. Luca and Eliana waited beneath the covered archway. You handled yourself well, she said. I sat at a table. You returned after the episode. That was the objective. You could admit it was difficult. I could also set myself on fire. Neither would be useful. Eliana smiled faintly. The street beyond the gates was unusually quiet. A black sedan turned the corner. For 1 second, Eliana assumed it was theirs. Then she noticed the headlights were off. Luca. He had already seen it. His hand moved inside his jacket. The sedan accelerated. Gunfire erupted from the rear window. Luca grabbed Eliana's wrist and pulled her behind the stone column as bullets struck the archway. Marble fragments exploded into the air. Eliana dropped to the pavement. Luca turned his chair sharply, placing its reinforced back between her and the street. What are you doing? She shouted. Stay down. More shots struck the entrance. The club guards returned fire. Dante's vehicle screeched around the corner, followed by another security car. The attacking sedan swerved. One of its tires burst beneath gunfire. It struck a parked vehicle and spun across the road. Men poured from the club. Dante reached Luca and Eliana. Boss, are you hit? No. Eliana? I'm fine. Her ears rang. Dust coated her hair and dress. A shallow cut burned across her palm from the pavement. Dante and another guard moved Luca toward the armored vehicle. Eliana followed. As they reached it, Luca suddenly stopped. His left foot had fallen from the wheelchair support. But it was not hanging loosely. It was pressed against the pavement. His knee was partially extended. Eliana stared. Luca stared too. For 1 impossible second, he appeared to be pushing against the ground. Then the strength vanished. His leg collapsed sideways. Get inside, Dante shouted. They loaded Luca and the chair using the vehicle's lift. Eliana climbed in beside him. The convoy sped away. No one spoke until the club had disappeared behind them. Luca looked down at his foot. You saw it, he said. Yes. I felt pressure. Where? In my hip. Eliana's heart began to pound for a reason unrelated to the shooting. That matters. It could be another spasm. You responded to danger. Your body tried to brace. Do not make promises. I'm not promising anything. You are thinking it. I'm thinking we need imaging, nerve testing, and a new specialist. No hospitals. Then a private clinic. No one can know. Why? Luca looked toward Dante, who sat in the front passenger seat. Because if the person who caused my accident discovers I am recovering, he may act before I am strong enough to respond. Eliana lowered her voice. Do you think tonight was connected? I do not believe in coincidences. They returned to the estate shortly before 1 in the morning. Security doubled at the gates. Dante left to investigate the shooting. Luca refused to go to bed. He entered his office and demanded every available report from the attack. Eliana stayed with him. At 2:15, she noticed blood on his trouser leg. Stop. Luca continued reading. You're bleeding. It is not mine. It's coming from your ankle. She moved beside the chair and unfastened his shoe. A piece of stone had cut through his sock during the attack. The wound was not deep, but Luca had not felt it. Eliana cleaned the skin carefully. You need to check your legs after every incident, she said. I was occupied. That is how small injuries become major problems. Luca watched her wrap the ankle. You were frightened tonight. So were you. I was not frightened. You used your chair to cover me. That was tactical. You pulled me behind the column before protecting yourself. You were standing in the open. So were you. I cannot stand. The words landed harder than he intended. Eliana looked up. Luca's expression closed. She secured the bandage. Maybe not yet, she said. He stared at her. Do not. Do not what? Build a future around a movement that lasted 1 second. I'm not building anything. I'm documenting what happened. You see possibility everywhere. That is better than seeing an ending everywhere. Luca reached out suddenly and caught her hand. His grip was firm. Eliana became still. The office was quiet except for the clock on the wall and the distant movement of guards outside. You could have been killed, he said. His voice was different. Not commanding. Not cold. Angry in a way that sounded almost afraid. So could you? That is expected. Not by me. His eyes searched hers. You have known me for 9 days. 10. That improves nothing. You hired me to keep you alive. I hired you to manage my medical care. I read the contract. Keeping you alive is strongly implied. Luca's thumb rested against the inside of her wrist. Her pulse beat beneath it. Neither moved. Then someone knocked. Luca released her. Enter. Vittorio walked into the office. He wore the same suit from dinner, but his tie was gone. I came as soon as I heard the convoy returned, he said. Are you injured? No. His eyes moved to the bandage around Luca's ankle. Then to Eliana's hand. What happened? Stone fragment, Eliana said. You felt it? Vittorio asked Luca. The question came too quickly. Luca's face remained neutral. No. Of course. Vittorio smiled, but his gaze stayed on Luca's leg. The attackers abandoned their vehicle. The registration was false. 2 men escaped. 1 died at the scene. Who organized it? Luca asked. We do not know yet. Then why are you here? To ensure my nephew is alive. You have confirmed it. Vittorio looked wounded by the dismissal. There is another matter. The council believes your security has been compromised. The council can believe quietly. They want Dante replaced. No. Luca twice in 8 months. Dante was not responsible for the bridge. You cannot know that. The room became silent. Eliana looked at Luca. His expression did not change, but his hand tightened on the chair control. Vittorio continued. The false rerouting order used his authorization code. Codes can be stolen. Or shared. Do you have evidence? Not yet. Then bring evidence or stop speaking. Vittorio's eyes moved toward Eliana again. Perhaps your employee should leave. She stays. This concerns the family. She is responsible for my health. And what else? The question hung between them. Luca's voice dropped. Choose your next sentence with care. Vittorio raised both hands. I meant no disrespect. Then demonstrate some. Vittorio turned toward the door. Before leaving, he looked back. For what it is worth, I am relieved you are unharmed. Luca said nothing. Vittorio left. Eliana waited until his footsteps disappeared. He knows something, she said. That is a broad statement. Vittorio knows many things. He asked whether you felt the cut. He understands spinal injuries. No. He understands your diagnosis. He wanted to confirm it had not changed. Luca looked toward the closed door. Lock it. Eliana crossed the room and turned the key. Luca opened a secure drawer beneath his desk and removed a thin black folder. Inside were photographs of the bridge wreckage, traffic reports, vehicle records, and security logs. He handed Eliana one page. This was recovered from the wreck. It was a photograph of a small device attached beneath the rear of the destroyed vehicle. What is it? A secondary explosive trigger. She looked at him. The truck crash was not supposed to kill you? It was supposed to disable the vehicle and force it through the barrier. The explosion was meant to erase whatever remained. Who knew your route? Done it. Vittorio. My driver. 3 members of the security office. Your driver died. Yes. And the security members? One disappeared. One was killed 3 weeks later. One still works here. Who? Caleb Rains. Head of surveillance. Eliana remembered a quiet man she had seen entering the security wing. Why keep him employed? Because guilty men are easier to watch when they believe they are trusted. And Dante? I have trusted him since we were 16. That is not evidence of innocence. No. His answer surprised her. You suspect everyone, she said. I survived because I suspect everyone. Do you suspect me? Luca looked directly at her. I did. Past tense. For now. That is almost touching. I can correct it. Eliana looked down at the bridge photograph. Why show me this? Because you noticed Vittorio watching my legs. That does not make me a detective. No. It makes you observant. It also makes me someone who should probably resign. You tore up the last employment option I gave you. You never gave me one. I considered offering. How generous. Luca leaned back. If my recovery becomes known, the traitor may move against me. Then we keep it private. You will continue therapy at night. No digital records. No rehabilitation staff. You need specialists. Later, you may damage yourself without guidance. You will learn. I am not a neurologist. You are the only person I trust with this. The words silenced her. Luca seemed to realize what he had said. He turned his chair toward the window. Eliana closed the folder. Then we start tomorrow. Tonight. You were nearly shot. So were you. I am not the one with a spinal injury. Tonight, he repeated. At 3 in the morning, they entered the abandoned rehabilitation room. Eliana switched on only one lamp. The standing frame cast a long shadow across the floor. She helped Luca transfer onto the padded treatment table. He hated every second of it. His jaw tightened when she moved his legs. He refused to acknowledge the effort required. Eliana began with assisted contractions. Try to pull your left heel backward. Nothing happened. Again. Nothing. Think about the movement before you attempt it. I know how legs work. Your nervous system is rebuilding the route. It is not a road. Fine. It is an emotionally complicated bridge. Luca gave her a look. She placed her palm beneath his heel. Again. The muscle behind his thigh tightened. His heel pressed faintly into her hand. Eliana's breath caught. Again. He tried. A stronger contraction followed. Luca stared at the ceiling. His face showed no celebration. Only concentration. And fear. They continued for 20 minutes. By the end, sweat ran down his temples. His hands trembled from gripping the sides of the table. That is enough, Eliana said. One more. You're fatigued. 1. She positioned his leg again. Pull. Luca inhaled. The muscle tightened. His heel moved half an inch. It was the smallest movement Eliana had ever seen change a man's entire world. Luca froze. His eyes closed. For a long time, he said nothing. Eliana rested her hand over his. You did that. His fingers curled beneath hers. Do not tell anyone, he whispered. I won't. A faint sound came from beyond the door. Eliana looked up. Footsteps. Someone was in the corridor. The footsteps stopped outside the rehabilitation room. Luca opened his eyes. The hope vanished from his face, replaced by immediate calculation. Eliana switched off the lamp. Darkness swallowed the room. The door handle moved. Then again. A shadow appeared beneath the door. Someone stood outside, listening. Luca reached beneath the treatment table and removed a small firearm taped to the frame. Eliana stared at him. You hide guns in the rehabilitation room? I hide guns everywhere. The shadow remained. Then a voice called softly through the door. Mr. Moretti? It was Caleb Rains, the head of surveillance. Luca did not answer. Caleb tried the handle once more. I saw the light, he said. Eliana held her breath. After several seconds, the shadow moved away. Footsteps retreated down the corridor. Luca waited a full minute before lowering the weapon. He saw us enter, Eliana whispered. The cameras in this wing were disconnected. Then how did he know? Luca's gaze shifted toward the small red light above the room's ventilation grill. The light blinked once. A hidden camera. Eliana felt cold. Luca aimed the gun toward it. Do not shoot, she whispered. He'll know we found it. He already knows I was here. He may not know why. Luca looked down at his left leg, at the heel that had just moved half an inch. Then his phone vibrated on the table. A message appeared from an unknown number. The photograph attached to it had been taken inside the rehabilitation room less than 1 minute earlier. It showed Eliana holding Luca's heel. Beneath the photograph were 7 words. I know you can move your leg. A second message arrived. Tell no one, or the girl dies. Luca's entire face changed. The man who had endured surgery without complaint, faced gunfire from a wheelchair, and ruled dangerous men through sheer force of will looked at Eliana with something she had never seen in him before. Not for himself. For her. He grabbed her arm. You are leaving tonight. No. This is not a negotiation. I'm not leaving you with a traitor in the house. You do not understand. I understand perfectly. Whoever tried to kill you knows about your recovery. They also know you matter to me. Eliana's breath caught. Luca appeared to hear the admission only after he had spoken it. Neither of them moved. Then the lights in the rehabilitation room came on by themselves. The electronic lock clicked open. A voice spoke through the hidden camera. Mr. Moretti, step away from the caregiver. Luca raised the weapon. The door slowly opened. And the person standing on the other side was the one person Luca had sworn could never betray him. Dante stood in the open doorway. For several seconds, no one moved. The weapon in Luca's hand remained aimed at his oldest friend. Dante's own hands were empty and raised slightly away from his body. His face showed no anger, no panic, and no surprise at being threatened. Only disappointment. Eliana, he said quietly, step away from him. She remained beside the treatment table. No. Dante looked at her. This does not concern you. Someone threatened to kill me less than 30 seconds ago. I think that makes it at least partially my concern. Luca shifted his body higher on the table, placing himself between Eliana and the doorway despite the limited space. Where is Caleb? He asked. Missing. And the guards? Half the house has been sent to investigate the shooting downtown. By whose order? Vittorio's. Luca's eyes hardened. You allowed my uncle to command my security? I allowed him to believe he was commanding it. The hidden camera above the ventilation grill turned with a faint mechanical sound. Dante glanced toward it. We do not have much time. Then explain quickly, Luca said. The threat did not come from Caleb. You expect me to accept that? I expect you to remember that Caleb can barely operate the new surveillance software without calling a technician. Eliana looked at the camera. Someone used his access. Yes. Who? Dante's jaw tightened. Your uncle. The room became completely silent. Luca lowered the gun by less than an inch. Vittorio does not have access to the security network. He does now. How? Dante stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The new system was installed after the bridge attack. The company that supplied it is owned through 3 shell corporations. The final company belongs to Vittorio. Luca's face did not change, but the hand gripping the gun became white at the knuckles. You knew. I suspected. For how long? 3 weeks. And you said nothing? I needed proof. You had 3 weeks to bring me proof. And if I had been wrong? You should have trusted me. Dante laughed once, but there was no humor in it. Trusted you? You suspected me after the bridge. Luca stared at him. Dante continued. You never said it, but I saw the investigation files. My authorization code. My vehicle movements. My financial records. You had men follow my sister. Everyone was investigated. I am not everyone. You were one of 4 people who knew the route. And I was in the escort vehicle behind you when the bridge exploded. That did not clear you. No. Nothing clears anyone with you. The pain in Dante's voice was sharper than anger. Eliana looked between the 2 men. Their history filled the room like another presence. Luca and Dante had known each other since they were teenagers. Dante had protected the estate, managed Luca's guards, and remained beside him through surgeries, funerals, and the collapse of his mobility. Yet Luca had suspected him. Perhaps he still did. The camera moved again. A speaker hidden inside the ceiling crackled. Touching, Vittorio's voice said, "But we are running out of time." Eliana's stomach tightened. Luca looked toward the camera. Show yourself. I have spent years standing behind you, Luca. Tonight you can listen. You arranged the bridge. It was not a question. Vittorio sighed through the speaker. You were supposed to die quickly. Dante moved closer to the camera, searching the walls for the control wiring. Vittorio continued. The truck driver panicked. Your vehicle went through the barrier too soon. The secondary charge detonated after the car hit the support frame instead of over open water. Luca's face remained still. Eliana had learned that stillness was his most dangerous expression. You killed Marco, he said. Marco had been Luca's driver. A man whose photograph Eliana had once noticed in the security office beside a wife and 2 small children. Collateral damage, Vittorio replied. Dante's hand curled into a fist. You ordered the restaurant ambush too, Luca said. The Bellandi men were easy to persuade. They believed they were attacking a weakened rival. If they succeeded, I inherited the organization. If they failed, you blamed them. And tonight was necessary because your caregiver became curious. Eliana looked toward the red camera light. How long have you been watching us? Long enough to know you have become a problem. Luca's voice lowered. You threaten her because you are afraid of me. Vittorio laughed. I am afraid of what you represent. You were supposed to disappear into that chair. Instead, men still obey you. Your paralysis should have made them question your authority, but somehow it made them admire you more. That must be difficult for a man who has spent his entire life being overlooked. The speaker went quiet. Luca had found the wound. When Vittorio spoke again, the amusement was gone. You always were arrogant. And you always mistook proximity to power for possession of it. The family belonged to my brother before it belonged to you. My father chose me. Your father was sentimental. My father understood that you were weak. A sudden metallic sound came from the corridor. Dante turned toward the door. The electronic lock engaged. Then a heavy barrier dropped outside, sealing the room. Dante pulled his weapon from beneath his jacket and tested the handle. But the rehabilitation wing can be isolated during a medical emergency, he said. Or during a murder, Eliana replied. The ventilation system stopped. The soft rush of air disappeared. A moment later, a sharp medicinal smell entered the room. Eliana covered her nose. What is that? Dante looked toward the vents. Gas. Luca immediately pulled his shirt over his mouth. Eliana wet a cloth. She grabbed a towel from the therapy sink, opened the faucet, and soaked it. The water stopped before she could finish. She pressed the damp cloth against Luca's face. Dante removed his jacket and used it to cover the ventilation grill. It won't hold, he said. The gas was colorless, but the smell grew stronger. Eliana's eyes began to burn. What is it? Probably an anesthetic agent, Luca said. He needs us alive long enough to move us. Vittorio's voice returned through the speaker. You always were difficult to kill. Luca raised the gun and fired at the camera. The lens shattered. Eliana flinched at the deafening sound. The speaker continued working. Temper, Vittorio said. You want my empire? Luca asked. Come and take it. I already have. Dante moved to the emergency control panel beside the door. He pried away the cover using the end of his weapon. Sparks snapped from the exposed wiring. Can you open it? Eliana asked. Not before we lose consciousness. Luca looked around the room. His eyes stopped on the powered standing frame. Push the frame against the door. Dante understood immediately. The standing frame was built from reinforced steel and powered by a strong electric motor designed to lift a patient from a seated position. Together, Dante and Eliana released its brakes and moved it across the floor. Luca remained on the treatment table, his breathing becoming heavier. Position the lift arm beneath the handle, he instructed. Eliana adjusted the machine. Dante turned the power to its maximum setting. The motor whined. The lift arm rose slowly beneath the metal handle. The door groaned but did not open. Again, Luca said. Dante lowered the arm and repositioned it. Eliana's vision blurred. She blinked hard. The gas was reaching her. Stay awake, Luca ordered. I'm trying. This is not the time to become disorganized. I am always organized during attempted murder. Dante activated the frame again. The metal door bent inward. The handle tore halfway from its mounting. Once more, Luca said. The standing frame strained. The door burst open. The force sent the heavy barrier outside crashing against the opposite wall. Fresh air rushed into the room. Dante pulled Eliana into the corridor. Then he returned for Luca. I can move myself, Luca said. You are on a treatment table. Bring the chair. The wheelchair had been left beside the far wall. Dante rolled it close. Eliana climbed back into the room despite the gas. Luca transferred using his arms, but halfway through the movement, his strength failed. His body dropped toward the floor. Eliana caught his shoulder while Dante supported his hips. Together, they lowered him into the chair. Luca's head fell back against the support. His face had become pale. We have to move, Dante said. The three of them entered the corridor. The estate was silent. Too silent. Eliana heard no guards, no staff, no alarms. Where is everyone? She whispered. Vittorio used the downtown attack to empty the house, Dante said. What about the remaining guards? Some belonged to him. They reached an intersection. Dante held up one hand. Voices approached from the right. He pulled Luca's chair and Eliana into an equipment room. Through the narrow opening, Eliana saw 3 armed men pass. One wore the Moretti security uniform. The other 2 did not. When they disappeared, Dante checked his phone. No signal. The internal network is blocking communication, Luca said. There is a hard line in the old wine cellar. The basement is restricted, Eliana said. Dante looked at her. It is restricted because that is where Luca keeps the emergency command system. She stared at Luca. You have an emergency command center under the wine cellar? It seemed practical. You have an entire secret basement and told me not to enter it. You entered every other room. That is not the point. Dante opened the door. You can argue after we survive. They moved toward the service elevator. Luca stopped the chair. No elevator. Why? Eliana asked. If Vittorio controls the network, he controls the elevator. The stairs are not exactly ideal. There is a secondary ramp behind the library. Dante looked at him. The old delivery passage? Yes. That section was sealed years ago. Not completely. They changed direction. The old passage began behind a decorative bookcase in the library. Luca pressed a hidden button beneath the desk, and the shelves shifted away from the wall. Eliana stared. Does anything in this house function normally? No, Dante said. The passage sloped downward through cold stone walls. It was narrow and steep. Luca's wheelchair handled the incline, but Eliana stayed behind him with both hands ready in case the brakes failed. Halfway down, he spoke quietly. You should have left when I offered. You never offered. You knew what I meant. You tried to frighten me away. I was attempting to protect you. Your methods need work. I am aware. The passage opened into a storage room behind the wine cellar. The cellar itself was lined with hundreds of bottles and wooden cases. At the rear stood a locked steel door. Dante entered a code. The panel flashed red. Changed, he said. Luca moved closer. Try the date my father died. Dante entered the numbers. Read again. Eliana looked at Luca. What date would Vittorio use? Something meaningful to him. The bridge attack? Dante entered the date. Green. The steel door opened. Luca's expression darkened. He wanted me to understand. Inside was a compact command room with monitors, radios, emergency power, security controls, and a direct telephone line. Most of the screens were dark. One displayed a live camera feed from the mansion's grand foyer. Vittorio stood beneath the chandelier with Caleb Rains and approximately 15 armed men. Several loyal guards knelt on the floor with their hands bound. Dante picked up the hardline phone. No dial tone. He cut the external connection. Luca examined the control board. The backup transmitter. Roof antenna, Dante said. Network access is required to activate it. Can you restore the cameras? Possibly. Dante sat at the console and began entering commands. Eliana opened her medical bag. Luca's breathing remained uneven. She checked his blood pressure. Too low now, probably from the medication used earlier combined with gas exposure and physical exertion. You need to lie back. I need to see the security feed. You can see it while tilted. She adjusted the wheelchair's position. Luca tried to resist, but his strength was fading. What happened to your shoulder? She asked. Blood stained his shirt near the sleeve. He looked down. During the transfer, the recently stitched injury had reopened. Eliana removed the dressing. This needs attention. Later. Now. Vittorio's voice suddenly filled the command room through the speakers. I wondered how long it would take you to reach the cellar. Luca looked at the main screen. Vittorio smiled into the foyer camera. You always did love secret rooms. You have control of the estate, Luca said. What do you want? A public surrender. You will not receive one. You misunderstand your position. Vittorio gestured. Two armed men dragged Matteo into the camera frame. Eliana stopped breathing. Her brother wore jeans, a gray sweatshirt, and one shoe. His hands were tied. There was a bruise near his temple. Eliana. Matteo shouted toward the camera. Don't listen to them. One of the men struck him across the back and forced him to his knees. Eliana stepped toward the monitor. No. Luca's face changed. Vittorio looked directly into the camera. Your caregiver was difficult to control, so I found someone she would obey for. How did you find him? Eliana whispered. Vittorio heard her through the room microphone. You carry your entire life in a handbag, Ms. Cruz. The employment documents were quite helpful. She turned toward Luca. I have to go up there. No. He has my brother. If you enter that foyer, he will take both of you. I cannot leave Matteo with him. You will not. He is 16. And you will not save him by surrendering. Vittorio smiled from the screen. You have 5 minutes. Luca comes to the foyer alone, signs control of the organization to me, and publicly confirms that he is medically incapable of leadership. And then, Luca asked, the girl and her brother leave. You will kill us all. Perhaps. But refusing guarantees the boy dies first. The screen changed. A countdown appeared. 5 minutes. Eliana gripped the edge of the console. Her mind filled with every promise she had made beside her mother's hospital bed. Keep Matteo in school. Do not let him believe he was alone. Do not allow her mistakes to destroy his future. Eliana, Luca said. She could barely hear him. This is my fault. No. I brought him into this. Vittorio brought him. If I had left, he would have used someone else. You don't know that. I know men like my uncle do not stop because good people cooperate. The countdown reached 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Dante turned away from the controls. I restored access to 4 cameras. The main foyer, east hallway, kitchen entrance, and garage. How many men? Luca asked. 15 visible. Possibly more. Our loyal guards? 6 captured. 2 injured. Frankie is not among them. Frankie was sent to investigate the vehicle. Then he may still be outside. Luca studied the camera feeds. Can you activate the fire suppression system? Only manually. Vittorio disconnected remote control. The exterior floodlights? No. The garage doors? Yes. Luca's gaze shifted toward the vehicle feed. 3 black SUVs were parked inside the garage. One had been fitted with remote operation for emergency extraction. Bring up vehicle 6. Dante accessed the system. Connected. Can you drive it from here? Basic steering and acceleration. Eliana looked at the floor plan displayed beside the screens. The garage connected to the foyer through a wide service corridor. A reinforced delivery door separated them. Could the vehicle break through that door? She asked. Dante looked at her. It is armored. That was not my question. Luca understood. You want to drive it into the foyer. It would create confusion. It could kill Matteo. Not if we control where it stops. The countdown reached 3 minutes. Dante shook his head. The cameras do not provide enough visibility. I'll guide you, Eliana said. How? The service corridor has storage mirrors at each turn. The kitchen camera can see the final corner. Luca looked at her. You noticed the mirrors? I get lost frequently. A faint, grim smile crossed his face. Donut, prepare the vehicle. Eliana collected medical tape, gauze, a pair of scissors, and a small bottle of antiseptic. Luca watched her. What are you doing? Preparing to get Matteo. You are staying here. I know the layout of the service corridor better than either of you. You are not trained for this. I'm trained to move injured people. You are not entering a room full of armed men. You cannot physically reach Matteo quickly if something goes wrong. Luca's expression became cold. There are limits to what I will tolerate from you. And there are limits to what I will obey. The timer reached 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Dante activated the SUV. The garage camera showed its headlights turning on. Luca looked at Eliana. If I order you to remain here, I will ignore you. If I lock the door, I'll find another one. If I dismiss you, I'll file unemployment after rescuing my brother. This is not a joke. I know. Her voice broke. Luca saw it. The fear she had hidden since Matteo appeared on the screen finally surfaced. He reached for her hand. His fingers closed around hers. I will bring him back. How? The same way I have survived everything else. That is not an answer. No, he said. It is a promise. For 1 second, the command room, the countdown, and the armed men disappeared. There was only Luca's hand holding hers. Only the certainty in his eyes. Only the terrifying possibility that she believed him. The timer reached 2 minutes. Luca looked toward Dante. Give Eliana your spare radio. Dante handed it over. You stay behind me, Luca told her. You move only when I tell you. That sounds unrealistic. Eliana. She nodded. Fine. Dante loaded a weapon and handed another to Luca. Eliana stared at it. You are not giving me one? No. Why not? Because the last time you held a weapon, you almost dropped it into a sink. That was a thermometer. The principle remains. The countdown reached 1 minute and 30 seconds. They left the command room through a secondary tunnel that opened behind the kitchen pantry. Luca's chair moved quietly across the stone floor. Eliana stayed close. Dante walked ahead with his weapon raised. Through the radio, Luca gave instructions. Vehicle 6 forward. The SUV moved from the garage. Its engine echoed through the service corridor. On the foyer camera, Vittorio turned toward the sound. What are you doing, Luca? He asked through the speaker. Luca did not answer. 30 seconds, Dante whispered. They reached the kitchen. The final doorway led toward the foyer. Dante positioned himself beside it. Eliana could hear Matteo shouting, "Let me go." 10 seconds, Dante said. Luca raised his weapon. Now. The SUV smashed through the reinforced delivery doors. The impact shook the entire mansion. Wood and metal burst into the foyer. Through the radio, Luca gave instructions. Vehicle 6 forward. The SUV moved from the garage. Its engine echoed through the service corridor. On the foyer camera, Vittorio turned toward the sound. "What are you doing, Luca?" he asked through the speaker. Luca did not answer. 30 seconds, Dante whispered. They reached the kitchen. The final doorway led toward the foyer. Dante positioned himself beside it. Eliana could hear Matteo shouting, "Let me go." 10 seconds, Dante said. Luca raised his weapon. Now. The SUV smashed through the reinforced delivery doors. The impact shook the entire mansion. Wood and metal burst into the foyer. Armed men scattered as the vehicle continued forward, crushing furniture and stopping beneath the chandelier. The lights went out. Dante had cut the foyer power from the kitchen panel. Gunfire erupted. Luca fired through the doorway with controlled precision, aiming toward muzzle flashes and forcing Vittorio's men behind the pillars. Dante moved into the room. Eliana dropped low and ran toward Matteo. Someone grabbed her cardigan from behind. She twisted, slipped free of the fabric, and continued in her dress. Matteo lay near the staircase. One of the guards reached for him. Eliana seized a silver serving tray from the floor and struck the man's arm. His weapon fell. Matteo rolled away. "Eliana!" She reached him and cut the restraints with her medical scissors. "Can you walk?" "I'm fine." "You are missing a shoe. They took me from Aunt Rosa's house." "Where is she?" "She wasn't home." A bullet struck the staircase above them. Eliana pulled Matteo behind the heavy base. "Stay down." "What is happening?" "Bad employment decision." Across the foyer, Luca's chair emerged from the kitchen doorway. He moved into the open. "Eliana," he shouted, "take Matteo to the West Hall." Before she could respond, Caleb Rains stepped from behind a pillar and pointed his weapon at Luca. Dante saw him. He fired. Caleb fell behind the marble table. Vittorio appeared on the upper landing. He held a pistol in one hand and used the other to drag a woman forward. It was Rosa, Eliana's aunt. Her face was pale. A strip of cloth covered her mouth. "Stop!" Vittorio shouted. The gunfire faded. Luca looked up. Vittorio pressed the weapon against Rosa's head. "You thought I would bring only one hostage?" Eliana closed her eyes for half a second. Matteo whispered, "Aunt Rosa." Vittorio removed the cloth from Rosa's mouth. She immediately began speaking. "Eliana, do not listen to him." "Quiet. You broke into my home," Rosa said. "Your mother would be ashamed of you." Vittorio stared at her. "You are remarkably irritating." "It runs in the family," Eliana called. Vittorio looked down at her. "Bring the girl to me." "No," Luca said. Vittorio aimed the pistol more firmly. "I am no longer negotiating." Luca's chair moved forward. "You never were. You come here pretending to command this room, but look at you." Vittorio descended one step, keeping Rosa between himself and the foyer. "You are trapped in a machine. Your men are divided. Your empire exists only because people remember who you used to be." Luca stopped beneath the staircase. The emergency lights came on, casting the foyer in dim red illumination. Vittorio smiled. "That is why the movement in your leg frightened me. Not because I believe you will walk again. Because hope makes people loyal. You arranged the crash to take my position. I arranged the crash because you planned to remove me." Luca's expression sharpened. "You were selling information. I was building alliances. You gave the Bellandis our port schedules. I gave them enough to weaken you. You murdered 3 of our men. Necessary losses. They trusted you. They trusted the wrong person." Vittorio looked at Dante. "As did you." Dante remained near the doorway, weapon trained upward. Vittorio continued. "You know Lucas suspected you. He searched your home. He questioned your sister. He believed you capable of murdering him." Dante said nothing. He does not trust you, Vittorio pressed. He trusts no one. Luca looked at Dante. Vittorio saw the hesitation. Join me now. You control security. I control the organization. Together, we end this. Dante lowered his weapon slightly. Eliana stared at him. Luca did not move. Dante, she whispered. Dante looked at Luca. You had my sister followed. Yes. You investigated my accounts. Yes. You believed I betrayed you. I believed anyone could. Even me. Luca's voice became quieter. Especially you. Dante's face hardened. Vittorio smiled. He admits it. Luca continued before Dante could respond. You were the only betrayal I could not survive. The smile disappeared from Vittorio's face. Dante stared at Luca. Luca did not look away. If you had been responsible for the bridge, he said, then every year of my life beside you would have been a lie. I investigated because I needed proof that it wasn't. You could have asked me. I did not know how. Dante swallowed. For the first time, Eliana saw something break through his controlled expression. Years of loyalty. Months of unspoken hurt. Fear hidden beneath duty. Dante raised his weapon again. He aimed at Vittorio. You should have chosen someone with fewer reasons to hate you, he said. Vittorio pulled Rosa backward. Fire and she dies. No one moved. Then Frankie's voice crackled through Eliana's radio. Boss, west entrance secure. I have 6 men. Luca's eyes shifted toward the hallway. Vittorio heard it. His face changed. The battle had turned. He dragged Rosa higher up the stairs. Bring Eliana to me or I kill her aunt. Eliana stood. Luca turned sharply. No. I have to. You do not. He will kill her. He will kill you both. Then give me another option. Luca said nothing. Vittorio backed toward the upper corridor. Now. Eliana walked toward the staircase. Matteo grabbed her hand. Don't. She squeezed his fingers. Stay with Dante. Eliana. Stay. She crossed the foyer. Luca moved his chair into her path. Armed men scattered as the vehicle continued forward, crushing furniture and stopping beneath the chandelier. The lights went out. Dante had cut the foyer power from the kitchen panel. Gunfire erupted. Luca fired through the doorway with controlled precision, aiming toward muzzle flashes and forcing Vittorio's men behind the pillars. Dante moved into the room. Eliana dropped low and ran toward Matteo. Someone grabbed her cardigan from behind. She twisted, slipped free of the fabric, and continued in her dress. Matteo lay near the staircase. One of the guards reached for him. Eliana seized a silver serving tray from the floor and struck the man's arm. His weapon fell. Matteo rolled away. Eliana. She reached him and cut the restraints with her medical scissors. Can you walk? I'm fine. You are missing a shoe. They took me from Aunt Rosa's house. Where is she? She wasn't home. A bullet struck the staircase above them. Eliana pulled Matteo behind the heavy base. Stay down. What is happening? Bad employment decision. Across the foyer, Luca's chair emerged from the kitchen doorway. He moved into the open. Eliana, he shouted. Take Matteo to the West Hall. Before she could respond, Caleb Rains stepped from behind a pillar and pointed his weapon at Luca. Dante saw him. He fired. Caleb fell behind the marble table. Vittorio appeared on the upper landing. He held a pistol in one hand and used the other to drag a woman forward. It was Rosa, Eliana's aunt. Her face was pale. A strip of cloth covered her mouth. Stop! Vittorio shouted. The gunfire faded. Luca looked up. Vittorio pressed the weapon against Rosa's head. You thought I would bring only one hostage? Eliana closed her eyes for half a second. Matteo whispered, Aunt Rosa. Vittorio removed the cloth from Rosa's mouth. She immediately began speaking. Eliana, do not listen to him. Quiet. You broke into my home, Rosa said. Your mother would be ashamed of you. Vittorio stared at her. You are remarkably irritating. It runs in the family, Eliana called. Vittorio looked down at her. Bring the girl to me. No, Luca said. Vittorio aimed the pistol more firmly. I am no longer negotiating. Luca's chair moved forward. You never were. You come here pretending to command this room, but look at you. Vittorio descended one step, keeping Rosa between himself and the foyer. You are trapped in a machine. Your men are divided. Your empire exists only because people remember who you used to be. Luca stopped beneath the staircase. The emergency lights came on, casting the foyer in dim red illumination. Vittorio smiled. That is why the movement in your leg frightened me. Not because I believe you will walk again. Because hope makes people loyal. You arranged the crash to take my position. I arranged the crash because you planned to remove me. Luca's expression sharpened. You were selling information. I was building alliances. You gave the Bellandis our port schedules. I gave them enough to weaken you. You murdered 3 of our men. Necessary losses. They trusted you. They trusted the wrong person. Vittorio looked at Dante. As did you. Dante remained near the doorway, weapon trained upward. Vittorio continued. You know Luca suspected you. He searched your home. He questioned your sister. He believed you capable of murdering him. Dante said nothing. He does not trust you, Vittorio pressed. He trusts no one. Luca looked at Dante. Vittorio saw the hesitation. Join me now. You control security. I control the organization. Together, we end this. Dante lowered his weapon slightly. Eliana stared at him. Luca did not move. Dante, she whispered. Dante looked at Luca. You had my sister followed. Yes. You investigated my accounts. Yes. You believed I betrayed you. I believed anyone could. Even me. Luca's voice became quieter. Especially you. Dante's face hardened. Vittorio smiled. He admits it. Luca continued before Dante could respond. You were the only betrayal I could not survive. The smile disappeared from Vittorio's face. Dante stared at Luca. Luca did not look away. If you had been responsible for the bridge, he said, then every year of my life beside you would have been a lie. I investigated because I needed proof that it wasn't. You could have asked me. I did not know how. Dante swallowed. For the first time, Eliana saw something break through his controlled expression. Years of loyalty. Months of unspoken hurt. Fear hidden beneath duty. Dante raised his weapon again. He aimed at Vittorio. You should have chosen someone with fewer reasons to hate you, he said. Vittorio pulled Rosa backward. Fire and she dies. No one moved. Then Frankie's voice crackled through Eliana's radio. Boss, west entrance secure. I have 6 men. Luca's eyes shifted toward the hallway. Vittorio heard it. His face changed. The battle had turned. He dragged Rosa higher up the stairs. Bring Eliana to me or I kill her aunt. Eliana stood. Luca turned sharply. No. I have to. You do not. He will kill her. He will kill you both. Then give me another option. Luca said nothing. Vittorio backed toward the upper corridor. Now. Eliana walked toward the staircase. Matteo grabbed her hand. Don't. She squeezed his fingers. Stay with Dante. Eliana. Stay. She crossed the foyer. Luca moved his chair into her path. You are not going. Move. No. Luca. He wants leverage. He already has it. Not you. She looked down at him. The red emergency lights cast shadows across his face. You promised to bring Matteo back, she said. You did. I promised to protect you too. And I'm asking you to protect Rosa. I cannot do that by handing you to him. You told me strength was in the mind. I never said that. You were thinking it dramatically. Despite everything, something almost like disbelief crossed his face. Eliana leaned closer. Trust me. His eyes searched hers. The word trust seemed to wound him. Perhaps because it required surrendering control. Perhaps because no one had asked it of him in years. Finally, he reached into his jacket and pressed something small into her hand. A remote control. What does this do? She whispered. West corridor shutters. When? When you reach the top. She closed her fingers around it. Luca moved aside. Eliana climbed the staircase slowly. Vittorio watched every step. Hands where I can see them, he ordered. She raised them slightly. The remote remained hidden in her right palm. When she reached the upper landing, Vittorio shoved Rosa toward her and grabbed Eliana instead. His arm locked around her throat. The pistol pressed against her side. Rosa stumbled toward the railing. Dante caught her from below. Vittorio dragged Eliana into the west corridor. Close the shutters, Lucas said through her radio. Eliana pressed the button. Steel barriers dropped at both ends of the corridor. Vittorio spun. What did you do? He pulled her harder against him. They were trapped together between two sealed doors. You should have searched me, she said. He struck the radio from her ear. It hit the floor and broke. Below them, Luca shouted her name. Vittorio dragged her toward a bedroom. You are the reason he changed, he said. I've known him for less than 2 weeks. That was enough. You tried to kill him before I arrived. I tried to remove him. Killing him was simply the cleanest solution. He shoved her into the bedroom. The room belonged to no one. Furniture was covered with sheets. Rain struck the tall windows. Vittorio locked the door. What now? Eliana asked. Now Luca signs what I need. You said you already controlled the empire. I control men who believe Luca is finished. If he appears again tomorrow, they may reconsider. So you need him to surrender publicly. Yes. He won't. He will for you. You overestimate my importance. Vittorio smiled. No. You underestimate it. He forced her toward the window. Below, the garden stretched into darkness. A black vehicle waited near the west wall. You prepared an escape. I prepare for every outcome. Except Dante choosing Luca. Vittorio's expression tightened. That was sentimental weakness. You sound jealous. He shoved her against the wall. You know nothing about this family. I know Luca's father chose him instead of you. His father chose a boy who thought ruthlessness was leadership. Maybe he chose the person who did not arrange car bombs. Vittorio raised the pistol. Before he could speak, a heavy impact shook the corridor. Something struck the steel shutter outside. Then again. Vittorio turned toward the door. Another impact followed. Metal groaned. Eliana listened. It was not gunfire. It was an engine. The reinforced wheelchair. Luca was driving it into the shutter. Vittorio laughed in disbelief. He plans to break through with that machine? The impact came again. A section of metal bent inward. Eliana moved slowly toward the bedside table. She saw a heavy glass lamp. Vittorio glanced back. Do not. She froze. The corridor shutter finally tore loose from its track. The bedroom door shook. Vittorio aimed toward it. Luca! Eliana shouted. He's armed. The door burst inward. Luca entered low and fast. He fired. Vittorio pulled Eliana in front of himself. The shot struck the wall. Vittorio fired back. The bullet hit Luca's chair near the control panel. The chair stopped. Luca was stranded in the doorway. Vittorio smiled. This is almost embarrassing. He pushed Eliana aside and aimed directly at Luca. You should have died on the bridge. Eliana grabbed the lamp and swung it. It struck Vittorio's arm. The pistol discharged into the ceiling. Luca fired again. Vittorio dropped behind the bed. Eliana crawled toward the wall. Another shot struck the chair. Sparks burst from the damaged controls. Luca tried the joystick. Nothing. Vittorio rose from the other side of the bed. His weapon remained in his hand. Luca's gun clicked empty. For a moment, all three understood the situation. Vittorio stepped into the open. Now look at you, he said. Luca reached for a second magazine. Vittorio fired. The bullet struck the floor beside the chair. Hands where I can see them. Luca stopped. Vittorio walked closer. You cannot run. No. You cannot stand. No. You cannot even move that chair. Luca looked at Eliana. Something passed between them. Not a plan. He placed both hands on the chair arms. Vittorio frowned. What are you doing? Luca leaned forward. His shoulders shook with effort. Eliana saw his left foot shift beneath the support. Then his right. He released the straps. Both feet touched the floor. Vittorio stared. Luca gripped the chair arms and pushed. His body rose 3 inches. His legs trembled violently. The muscles were thin and unreliable, but they held. For 1 second. Then 2. Vittorio's face emptied of all expression. 2. Luca rose higher. Not fully standing. Not steadily. But enough. Enough to lift himself from the chair. Enough to look Vittorio directly in the eyes. You were wrong, Luca said through clenched teeth. His knees began to buckle. Vittorio raised the pistol. Eliana threw herself against his arm. The shot went wide. Luca lunged forward using the last of his strength. His shoulders struck Vittorio's chest. Both men crashed onto the bed. Eliana seized the pistol as it fell. Vittorio rolled, grabbing Luca by the throat. Luca's legs hung uselessly over the edge of the mattress, but his arms remained strong. He drove his fist into Vittorio's side. Vittorio tightened his grip. Eliana aimed the weapon. Release him. Vittorio looked at her. You won't shoot. I once removed a wheel from a hospital administrator's chair because he annoyed me. You are not a killer. No. Her hand steadied. But I am his caregiver. The bedroom door opened behind them. Dante and Frankie entered with weapons raised. Vittorio froze. Dante crossed the room and dragged him away from Luca. Frankie secured his wrists. Eliana dropped the pistol. She immediately moved to Luca. He lay partly across the bed, breathing hard. His face was white. Can you feel anything? My legs are burning. Her eyes widened. Pain. Pressure. Heat. That could be nerve activity. Or damage. We need imaging. No hospitals. Do not start. His hand found hers. You saw it. You stood. Barely. You stood. A strange sound left her. Half laugh, half sob. Luca looked at her face. You are injured. I'm fine. You are bleeding. So are you. You disobeyed every instruction. You drove a wheelchair through a metal wall. It was reinforced. That does not improve the decision. Dante looked down at them. We should leave before the police arrive. Luca's expression changed. Who called them? I did, Rosa said from the doorway. She stood beside Matteo, who supported her arm. Everyone stared at her. Rosa lifted her chin. A man dragged me from my home. I called the police the first chance I had. Frankie looked concerned. This house cannot receive police. It can tonight, Luca said. Dante looked at him. Boss. Luca pushed himself upright against the headboard. His gaze settled on Vittorio. 4 years, Luca's organization had survived through silence, intimidation, and the certainty that family matters never reached public courts. But that silence had protected men like Vittorio. It had allowed betrayal to hide behind loyalty. It had made Luca suspect everyone because no truth could be trusted unless he uncovered it himself. No bodies, Luca said. No executions. Vittorio answers publicly. Vittorio laughed from the floor. You cannot put me in court without exposing yourself. I can expose enough. You will destroy the family. The family survived you. It will survive the truth. Vittorio's face twisted. You think becoming legitimate will erase what you are? No. Luca looked at Eliana. But I can decide what I become next. Police sirens grew louder beyond the gates. By dawn, the Moretti estate no longer belonged to silence. Investigators filled the foyer. Emergency lights flashed against the stone walls. Paramedics treated Rosa, Matteo, several guards, and finally Luca after Eliana threatened to describe his condition loudly to every officer in the room. Vittorio was taken away in handcuffs. Caleb survived his injury and was arrested. The men who had helped seize the estate began turning on one another before sunrise. Dante provided security records, financial transfers, vehicle data, and recordings proving Vittorio's role in the bridge attack, the restaurant ambush, and the kidnapping. Luca gave a statement. Not the entire truth. But enough. 3 days later, Eliana sat beside Luca's hospital bed while a specialist studied his latest scans. The private neurological clinic had been chosen by Dante, inspected by Frankie, and criticized by Eliana because the vending machine charged $4 for water. Dr. Naomi Bennett placed the images on a large illuminated screen. The original injury was severe, she said, but the spinal cord was not completely severed. Luca's expression remained guarded. The first report said complete paralysis. The initial swelling obscured the remaining nerve pathways. There was also additional compression from scar tissue. Eliana leaned forward. Could that explain the delayed movement? Yes. Combined with reduced swelling, preserved nerve fibers, and recent stimulation. Luca looked at the scan. Will I walk? Dr. Bennett did not offer false comfort. You may regain more function. You may stand with support. You may take assisted steps. You may remain dependent on the chair for most mobility. What percentage? Recovery does not work cleanly enough for a responsible percentage. Luca's jaw tightened. Eliana rested her hand over his. The doctor continued. What matters is that your body has shown voluntary movement, sensory return, and the ability to support weight briefly. Those are meaningful signs. How long? Months. Years, possibly. Rehabilitation will be difficult. Luca looked at Eliana. She smiled. Good thing you hired an irritating caregiver. Dr. Bennett glanced between them. You will need an experienced rehabilitation team. I agree, Eliana said. I did not ask you, Luca replied. You will also need psychological support. No. Yes. No. Dr. Bennett hid a smile. Eliana pointed at him. See? Very difficult patient. I have survived several attempts on my life. And yet therapy frightens you. It does not frighten me. Excellent. Monday at 8. 7. Eliana stared. You want to begin earlier? I want to finish earlier. She leaned back. I'll still record that as enthusiasm. During the following months, Luca dismantled the most violent parts of the Moretti organization. It was not immediate. It was not simple. Men who had grown wealthy from fear did not suddenly become respectable because their leader changed direction. Several resisted. Some left. A few attempted to challenge him. They discovered that paralysis had not reduced Luca's intelligence, patience, or willingness to defend what belonged to him. But his methods changed. Illegal shipping routes became legitimate import businesses. Cash operations were transferred into regulated companies. Construction, property management, private security, and transportation became the foundation of the organization's future. Dante remained in charge of security. Their friendship did not repair through one conversation. It repaired through smaller things. Luca stopped requesting secret reports on him. Dante began speaking when he disagreed. Neither apologized elegantly. They were not elegant men. Frankie became head of operations and complained that legitimate paperwork was more frightening than gunfire. Rosa returned home after replacing 3 locks and purchasing an alarm system she insisted had been recommended by a very serious police officer with kind eyes. Matteo moved into a safer apartment with Eliana and refused Luca's offer to pay for everything. He accepted a scholarship instead. The scholarship was anonymously funded by one of Luca's new charitable foundations. Everyone knew. No one mentioned it. Eliana continued working at the estate. Her caregiver contract changed after 2 months. Luca increased her salary. She accused him of trying to bribe her. He replied that bribery generally required the recipient to become more cooperative. She remained completely uncooperative. Rehabilitation became part of the mansion's routine. The abandoned therapy room was renovated. The hidden camera was removed. The walls were repainted. Sunlight entered through newly opened curtains. For weeks, progress remained almost invisible. Luca strengthened his core. He learned to control tiny contractions in his thighs. He practiced supported standing until his arms shook. Some days, nothing worked. On those days, anger returned. Once, after failing to rise from the standing frame, he struck the control panel so hard that it cracked. Eliana turned off the machine. Finished, No. You broke the controls. Then replace them. I'm talking about the tantrum. I did not have a tantrum. You assaulted medical equipment. It was defective. It was switched off. Then it had no excuse not to defend itself. She sat on the treatment table. Luca looked away. I stood once, he said, during extreme stress. I should be able to do it again. You are doing more than you did last month. It is not enough. Eliana lowered her voice. Enough for what? He did not answer. To walk into meetings? Silence. To prove Vittorio failed? His jaw tightened. To feel like the man you were before? Luca looked at her. She continued. You survived the bridge. You survived surgery. You led from a wheelchair. You protected people who could run when you couldn't. Standing will not make you more of a man. It will make me less dependent. That is different. I hate needing help. I know. I hate that you have seen me fall. I know. I hate that when I try, everyone watches. I can close the curtains. His mouth shifted. She moved closer. You don't need to perform recovery for anyone. I need to know what is possible. Then keep trying. But stop treating every failed attempt like a verdict. He stared at the damaged machine. After a long silence, he said, Can it be repaired? Yes. Today? Probably. Good. Are you apologizing? No. That almost sounded like growth. Do not ruin it. By spring, Luca could stand in the frame for 2 minutes. By early summer, he could shift weight between his feet with heavy support. His right leg remained weaker. His balance was unreliable. The chair remained essential. But it no longer seemed like evidence of defeat. It was a tool. A powerful one, according to Luca, who ordered a second reinforced model after the first had survived bullets, walls, and his own reckless driving. Eliana decorated the new chair with a small yellow sticker near the rear wheel. Luca discovered it during a meeting. It read, Caution, difficult patient. He summoned her to the office. She entered holding a sandwich. You called? He pointed toward the sticker. What is this? A safety notice. Remove it. No. I am conducting serious business. Then people should be warned. Dante looked down at the documents to hide his reaction. Luca peeled off the sticker. Eliana reached into her pocket and placed another on the desk. I bought 50. You are a menace. You hired me. That remains under review. It had become their language. He threatened to fire her. She ignored him. He ordered her away from danger. She found new danger. He gave her structure. She brought noise, burnt breakfasts, music in the hallways, and plants that survived only because the housekeepers secretly watered them. The estate changed around her. Staff began speaking above whispers. The piano was tuned. Matteo left textbooks on the dining table when he visited. Rosa criticized the kitchen's seasoning and reorganized one entire pantry without permission. The chessboard in the sunroom remained untouched until one rainy afternoon. Eliana found Luca sitting beside it. His father's final game was still frozen exactly where it had ended 11 years earlier. You never finished it, she said. It was his turn. He's not coming back. Luca looked at the pieces. I know. Then maybe the game belongs to you now. He was silent for a long time. Finally, he lifted his father's black knight. He studied the board and placed it on a new square. Eliana sat opposite him. Do you know how to play? He asked. No. Of course not. You can teach me. That could take years. I'm very gifted. You removed a wheel from a chair to make a medical argument. It worked. Luca looked at her. Then he moved a white pawn toward her side. Your turn. Their relationship changed quietly. There was no grand announcement. No dramatic conversation beneath moonlight. There were mornings when Eliana fell asleep in a chair beside his bed after overnight monitoring and woke beneath a blanket Luca had placed over her. There were evenings when he waited to begin dinner because she was late returning from Matteo's school. There were arguments over medication, rehabilitation, security, and whether cereal counted as an appropriate evening meal. There was also the memory of the command room. The way he had held her hand. The way he had said she mattered. Neither spoke about it for months. Then, on the anniversary of the bridge attack, Luca asked Eliana to accompany him to the river. The rebuilt section of the bridge glittered beneath the evening lights. They parked at a quiet overlook. Dante remained with the vehicle at a respectful distance. Eliana stood beside Luca's chair. "You hate anniversaries," she said. "I hate most things." "That is true." He looked toward the bridge. "For 8 months after the accident, I imagined the explosion every night." Eliana remained silent. The sound, the vehicle turning, Marco shouting. His hands tightened on the armrests. "I remember the water below us. Then nothing. You never told me." "I did not tell anyone." "Why now?" "Because this is the first year I reached the date without wishing the bridge had finished the job." Eliana looked at him. Luca kept his gaze on the river. "You did that," he said. "No. You entered a house where everyone was afraid to speak. You challenged me, insulted me, threatened me with medication, and placed stickers on expensive equipment. Those were excellent stickers. You made the house feel alive." She rested her hand on his shoulder. "You were already alive, Luca." "I was breathing." "That is not the same thing." "No." He turned the chair toward her. The city lights reflected in his dark eyes. "I spent my life believing every person had a price. Some do." "You did." Eliana pulled her hand away. "Excuse me? You required money. You admitted it in the interview. That is different." "It is not." "Are you attempting romance by discussing my unpaid bills?" "I am attempting honesty." "This is going poorly." His expression softened. "You needed money, but it was never enough to buy your loyalty." Eliana became still. "You stayed when leaving would have been safer." "You stayed too. It was my house. You know what I mean." Luca reached into his jacket. Eliana immediately frowned. "What are you doing?" "Do not interrupt." "Are you armed?" "Probably." "That is not reassuring." He removed a folded document. She accepted it cautiously. It was an employment contract. "Eliana Cruz," she read, "Director of Patient Advocacy and Rehabilitation Services." She looked at him. "What is this?" "The foundation is opening 3 rehabilitation centers." "You are opening clinics?" "For patients discharged without accessible homes, insurance support, or proper long-term care." Her eyes returned to the document. The role included oversight of patient support, family housing assistance, and rehabilitation grants. At the bottom was a salary large enough to pay every debt her mother's illness had left behind. "You remembered St. Catherine's." "I remember everything." "Luca, you were right about the system. People are abandoned when their money runs out." "And you want me to run this?" "I want you to build it." She stared at him. "You know I was fired from my last medical job." "Yes." "For removing office furniture." "One wheel." Despite herself, she laughed. Emotion tightened her throat. "This is too much." "No. You don't even know whether I can manage a foundation." "You managed me." "That is fair." She folded the document carefully. "Is this your way of asking me to stop being your caregiver?" "No. Because I should probably mention that directors do not usually monitor medication schedules." "You will continue." "That sounds like 2 jobs." "You will be compensated." Still not romantic. Luca reached for her hand. This time, his expression held no distance. No command. No fear disguised as anger. "I do not know how to offer normal," he said. "I don't think either of us would recognize it. I can offer honesty. That is a start. Protection. Within reason. Loyalty. Good. My life, though it is complicated. Very complicated. My home. Also complicated. My future." Eliana stopped smiling. Luca's thumb moved across her knuckles. "I can offer you everything I have," he said. "Not because you saved me. Not because you care for me. Because you are the only person who entered my world and refused to become smaller inside it." Her eyes filled. She blinked quickly. "You practiced that. For 3 weeks. I knew it. I am not naturally expressive. You once described gratitude as operational appreciation. It was accurate. Eliana leaned closer. What exactly are you asking? To remain. As your employee? No. As your caregiver? Sometimes. As the person who tells you when you're unreasonable? That position appears permanent. She smiled. And everything else? Everything else. Eliana placed the contract on her lap. You are still difficult. So are you. You will attend therapy. Yes. You will take prescribed medication. Within reason. That means yes. Fine. You will not investigate my credit again. No promises. Luca. He smiled. It was the rare smile that reached his eyes and changed the hard lines of his face. She bent toward him. Their kiss was quiet. No gunfire. No shattered windows. No desperate race against death. Only the river below, the city beyond them, and Luca's hand resting gently against her cheek. For the first time, they were not reacting to danger. They were choosing each other. 6 months later, the first Cruz Moretti Rehabilitation Center opened in Brooklyn. The building included accessible apartments for families, long-term physical therapy, psychological support, legal assistance, and funding for patients without adequate insurance. Eliana stood behind the stage curtain before the opening ceremony, adjusting the microphone clipped to her jacket. I cannot do this, she said. Matteo looked up from his phone. You faced armed kidnappers. They were less judgmental than donors. Rosa fixed Eliana's collar. You look beautiful. I look like someone pretending to be qualified. You are qualified. I destroyed a coffee machine yesterday. It was already broken. It was not broken until I touched it. Across the room, Luca waited near the stage entrance. He wore a dark suit and sat in his wheelchair. Beside him stood a pair of forearm crutches. Eliana stared at them. You are not doing what I think you're doing. Luca looked innocent. I do not know what you think. You plan to walk onto that stage. I plan to take several assisted steps. You practiced for only 3 minutes this morning. I practiced yesterday. You nearly fell yesterday. I did not fall. Dante caught you. That is why he was standing there. Dante sighed. I no longer wish to participate in this argument. Eliana moved in front of Luca. You can enter using the chair. I know. No one expects you to walk. I know. You do not need to prove anything. Luca looked at the stage. This is not for them. Then who? He looked at her. For me. Eliana studied his face. The choice had not come from shame. It had not come from pressure or the need to appear powerful. He wanted to attempt it because it mattered to him. She nodded. Then I'm beside you. The speech is yours. They can wait. Luca positioned the crutches. Dante and Eliana helped him rise. His legs trembled beneath him. For one moment, his weight shifted too far backward. Eliana placed her hand against his side. I have you. I know. He adjusted his right foot. Then he moved the left crutch. His left leg followed. One slow step. The audience beyond the curtain continued talking, unaware of what was happening behind it. Luca moved the right crutch. His right foot dragged forward. Second step. Sweat formed at his temples. His breathing became controlled and deliberate. Third step. They reached the curtain. Eliana looked at him. Ready? No. Good. She opened it. The audience became silent. Then someone stood. Applause began at the back of the room and spread forward. Luca paused. His arms shook. The wheelchair waited behind him. He could have returned to it. No one would have thought less of him. Instead, he looked toward the front row. Matteo was smiling. Rosa was crying openly. Frankie applauded with both hands above his head. Dante stood beside the stage, pretending not to be emotional. Luca looked at Eliana. She did not cheer. She did not tell him how inspirational he was. She simply remained beside him, ready if he needed support. He took one more step. Then another. When his strength began to fail, Eliana moved the wheelchair behind him. Luca lowered himself into it. The applause grew louder. He adjusted his jacket and rolled toward the microphone. "My name is Luca Moretti," he began. The room quieted. "Several years ago, I believed power meant never requiring help. Eliana stood just off stage. I believed weakness was anything another person could see. Dependence. Failure." He looked down briefly at his hands. "I was wrong." The audience remained silent. Real strength is not refusing assistance. It is deciding that losing one part of your life does not mean surrendering the rest. His gaze found Eliana. "This center exists because someone entered my home, ignored every order I gave her, and refused to see my chair before she saw me." Eliana smiled through tears. "She also destroyed several household objects, violated my privacy, and remains consistently late." The audience laughed. Eliana folded her arms. Luca's mouth shifted. "But she taught me that recovery is not the return to the person you were before. It is the decision to build someone new from what remains." The applause began again. Later, after the speeches, photographs, and endless handshakes, Eliana found Luca alone in one of the therapy rooms. The sun was setting beyond the windows. His crutches rested against the wall. He looked tired but peaceful. "You disappeared," she said. "I was hiding." "You admit it now?" "Only from donors." She sat on the treatment table. "You did well." "So did you." "I forgot half my speech." "No one noticed." "I told the mayor his tie looked nervous." "He deserved it." Eliana smiled. Luca rolled closer. "Are you ready to leave?" "In a minute." He stopped between her knees. "You are crying." "I am not." "You are." "My eyes are reacting to success." "That is not medical." "I am expanding the field." Luca placed his hands on either side of her. "Favorite moment?" "What?" "From today." She pretended to consider. "The refreshments were good." "Eliana." She looked at him. "You choosing the chair." His brow furrowed. "I walked." "Yes." "Then you sat down when your body told you it was enough." "That was your favorite moment?" "You didn't treat the chair like failure. You used it because it helped you continue." Luca became quiet. The wheelchair hummed softly beneath him. A machine. Nothing more. Eliana touched his face. "You changed everything," he said. "No." "Yes. You were the one who did the work. You forced me to begin. You hired chaos. Chaos happened." He laughed. Then he kissed her. Outside the room, the new rehabilitation center remained alive with voices, footsteps, and possibility. The silence that once surrounded Luca Moretti was gone. He had not recovered everything the bridge had taken. He might never walk across a room without support. He would still experience pain, difficult days, and moments when his body refused to follow his commands. But he no longer measured his life by what had been lost. He had a purpose beyond fear. He had rebuilt his organization without the betrayal that once poisoned it. He had opened doors for people who had been abandoned by the same systems that had nearly abandoned him. And he had Eliana, the young caregiver who had arrived late, wearing mismatched shoes, carrying an orange and a handbag full of disorder. She had entered his home because she needed a paycheck. She stayed because she saw the man beneath the reputation. And when Luca believed his body had become a prison, Eliana reminded him that a man's strength was never limited to the distance his legs could carry him. Before they left the center that evening, Luca stopped beside the entrance. Eliana noticed a small yellow sticker attached to the back of his wheelchair. "Caution, difficult patient." He looked at her. "You promised to stop." "I promised nothing." He reached behind the chair and peeled it off. Beneath it was another sticker. "Protected by chaotic caregiver." Luca stared at it. Eliana prepared to run. Instead of removing it, he turned toward the doors. "You are keeping it?" she asked. "Temporarily." She smiled and walked beside him into the evening. The mafia boss had hired a caregiver to manage his broken body. He never expected her to expose the betrayal that destroyed it. He never expected her to help him stand. And he certainly never expected her to teach him that accepting love did not make him vulnerable. It made him dangerous in an entirely different way. because a man with nothing to lose could be feared. But a man who finally had something worth living for could change an empire. If Luca and Eliana's journey kept you watching until the end, subscribe to the channel because more emotional, high-stakes stories are coming. Tell us in the comments, what was your favorite moment? Was it when Luca stood to face Vittorio, when Dante chose loyalty over betrayal, or when Luca finally walked onto the rehabilitation center stage? Like the video, share it with someone who loves powerful stories about courage, loyalty, and unexpected love, and turn on your notifications so you do not miss the next story.